Hello people, not applicable people except as true with a GQ reporter who leaked something about Jimin. People are also worrying about Jimin's song, which will be removed from Billboard, and what this is about. Then we have people saying that the label is taking legal action. Let's get into it. If you are not aware, the label is currently being investigated by the National Assembly. There are things happening over there, and a lot of the internal matters are being examined right now in not applicable court. A bunch of artists have come out to talk, and it has been one controversy after another as people are beginning to discover what the artists are saying and what might be happening inside the label. It's also essential to take a lot of these things with a grain of salt, even though I know most people probably wouldn't take it with a grain of salt. What an artist says will be from their experience, and what actually goes on behind the scenes in a company is going to be a different experience. So the label, or any organization in general, isn't always going to act in the best interest of one person. They're going to act in the interest of keeping the company alive, which then in turn serves the artist or the talent well. If the company is still alive, then the brand can continue to operate, make money, and do all of that stuff. Now, it was recently believed that some internal documents have come out. I do not really want to get into the specific internal documents and what actually came out, but there are a lot of people saying that it has happened. Now, there's this rumor going around online that the label is now taking legal action against the National Assembly because they allegedly leaked internal documents. That is not how court works, and that's often why when I read these things, I tend to think that the audience writing this skews younger. First of all, when you're in court, there is no such thing as an internal or private document. Everything comes out. Anything being cited in court now will have to be subpoenaed by the judge. So it is no longer regarded as a private document. It's now public. That would include employee documents. If it is brought up in court, it has to be proven to the court. As for things like financials and that sort of stuff, the label is a public company, so they have to share that every year anyway. So nothing about the organization right now is technically private. There's also no documentation or evidence to support the label taking legal action against the National Assembly. Some people have been saying that the label seems to have the audacity to take legal action against a government figure like that, specifically saying that HYB must feel like they own Korea. I find this so interesting because it was not too long ago that people were talking about how the label should take legal action against the military for forcing the BTS members to enlist. You can literally sue anyone. If you feel like the Supreme Court or the president has wronged you, you can sue them. That's the beauty of law, I guess. That if you feel like someone has done something wrong, no matter how powerful they are, you can still tell your side of the story and try to get your situation rectified. However, I don't believe the label is taking legal action. However, if they felt wronged, they are allowed to. And I would hope they are allowed to because that would set the precedent that we are all allowed to if we feel like we're being wronged. People have been protesting Jimin's song, This is fascinating because there is no controversy surrounding the song, at least not right now. I do not remember there being much controversy back then either, but I know for certain there really isn't any now. The reason there is even any controversy is that people are confused as to why it's still charting. And really, there may be no other reason for a song to chart other than the fact that people are still connecting to it today, and it's still being listened to, downloaded, and shared. The numbers of any song or stream speak for themselves, and if you see that it's still on the charts and doing well, then that's because people like it. Now, the top songs on the charts right now are APT by Rose and Bruno Mars, Die With A Smile, also by Bruno Mars and Gaga. And then we have Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. Of course, the fourth track is Jimin's. There were indeed some people who felt like these songs fit well together, and that these songs are what people are listening to right now. However, there have been people who felt like this top list of songs did not make sense, specifically regarding Jimin's song. One person stated that all four were well-deserved, and then another person decided to chime in and say that really only the top three are deserved and Jimin does not deserve to be there, basically insinuating that they would like Jimin off the charts. Then some other people decided to chime in to say that they're not trying to be a hater of BTS or Jimin, but they have absolutely never heard of the song, That's the beauty of charts and all that sort of stuff. Anyone can chart on the charts, and it doesn't have to be a globally known track or even a song that's all over the radio. It can just be a song that some people enjoy and then it gets a lot of streams. People are still paying for it and they're still listening, which keeps it on the charts. I personally really enjoy the song, and I feel like it is where it needs to be. However, it is a very odd thing to say that just because you haven't personally heard of a track, it doesn't deserve to be on the charts. It falls in line with the belief that just because something is popular, it is better, which is not always true. It may be more commercially or generally liked, which is why it can be regarded as more popular. But that's not always what connects with people individually. BTS's music has never truly been only about selling. It has always been about art first. So I do think it's a little rude to insinuate that he does not belong there, or that the song isn't as important just because some people haven't heard of it or it isn't as big or on the radio as much. Quite frankly, I'm really proud and honestly excited to see any of the members up on the charts. I truly hope to see more, and I don't really see these things as a competition. I know award shows and people in the industry often like to make it seem like music is about competition, but it is not. It's about expressing yourself. It's about putting something out there. Yes, it's about making a little bit of money and selling the art, but everything else that goes along with it, like awards, perhaps a certain degree of notoriety, fame, this is all extra. That doesn't mean that the art is good or bad. There's also been a recent GQ magazine interview from Australia that has gone viral again. This was an interview in which Jimin talked about trying to focus more on human relationships and hoping that in the future he can focus a little bit more on that or show that aspect of him. This was fascinating because this interview was a couple of years ago, and some people think that this was a hint toward admitting a relationship, specifically perhaps a dating one. They think that the staff or the employee perhaps knew something and that it was leaked, implying something from the get-go. It's interesting to think about these things because you never know how much of this is really true or not. I often take these matters with a grain of salt, like what people are saying, because there are so many ways to interpret what Jimin specifically said. The questions before it were leading up to talking about his music, so the interviewer wasn't asking about a relationship or anything like that. The interviewer was asking specifically about the direction of Jimin's art, to which Jimin replied that he would like to focus more on human relationships. This shows his interest in singing about relationships, friendships, romantic partners, things like that. So he stated he was going to go in that direction, which is exactly what he ended up doing with songs like Crazy and others. He never specifically stated that he was going to look into revealing a romantic partner or anything like that, but even if he did say that, it was going to happen inevitably anyway. The members have all talked at length about wanting to be in a relationship one day and to have romantic partners and all of that stuff. So, obviously, one day they likely would admit to having a romantic partner. Now, does this mean it will happen anytime soon or that something like that would be coming out soon? I do not know, and I don't think so. I think the members have been very focused on the army even before that. They're focused on their solo careers, and then afterward, they're probably going to focus on BTS for a little bit before they even think about going into a relationship. I think people underestimate how much time it takes to do something. When you're in the midst of a tour or promotional period, if you're not filming or shooting or doing any of that stuff, then you are rehearsing, practicing the dance, learning the lyrics, and making sure everything is perfect. This takes a lot of time, and even learning the simplest choreography can take a few hours at least in the beginning, and then afterward, it's just perfecting it and making sure that it becomes second nature. On top of that, things like press and interviews take hours. Sometimes they might have a makeup artist put makeup on them at the start of the day, but if the makeup artist is doing this between every single press event, like radio and then TV, and all that stuff, they do the makeup or touch-up in between constantly. Then you can probably add another 30 or 20 minutes in between each of those press activities. It likely takes anywhere from 1 to 2 hours to actually film the specific talk show or whatever it is. So if they're doing 5 in one day, alongside rehearsal and all that stuff, their day is gone. There's no time or opportunity to have a relationship. And what kind of relationship would that be if they never saw each other?